Welcome to today's talk on divorce financing with Nicole Noonan of New Chapter Capital. My name is Regina DeMeo, and I'm a divorce attorney in Maryland and DC. I've been practicing for over 20 years, and I've also had the honor of being a part-time professor at GW Law this year. In light of COVID-19, we've put together some timely tips for families to deal with this crisis while separating. And so today, Nicole, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Excited to do this with you. Great.
So
Great idea.
Thank you. So how long have you been doing divorce financing?
For over a decade. I have been in the matrimonial world, and I have been doing divorce funding for a decade.
Wow. And prior to going into financing, am I right that you used to be a family law attorney in New Jersey and New York?
Guilty as charged. I'm, as I said, a reformed matrimonial attorney. Saw a need for this in my own practice for an option for clients for funding.
Do you find that that background is helpful in terms of understanding the process for individuals that are going through a divorce?
Regina, I think it's essential that we have the matrimonial law background. Not only do you need to know how to do the hand-holding for a lot of clients, but you have to have an ability to give them the guidance, be another team member for their divorce plan, their divorce team.
Who would you say your typical clients are?
So no two clients are the same, but I would say that what sort of brought me to do divorce funding was in my own practice, working with women and men that were the stay-at-home parent, where were they typically the non-moneyed spouse, and they had need for liquidity to get the right experts. So not that's one type of client. We also have clients that are just need that liquidity event, that have all their money tied up in real estate, especially in the DC, New York area. It's very easy to have all your equity tied up in an apartment until that sells. How do you go ahead and retain those experts, those attorneys, forensic accountants that you need to in order to get divorced? So that's what we give them, a liquidity event.
So, I mean, to be honest, you helped one of my clients a few years ago because he had no access to the equity in the home. He had no retirement that he could borrow from. And I think most of the credit cards were in the wife's name.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a very good example. Now, there does have to be there has to be an asset. As much as we'd love to go ahead and divide furniture and help you divide the dog and get to your next chapter, it's not always available to clients where there are no assets. It just doesn't make
No, right. But in the case of my client, they had the marital home, and I was able to write an opinion letter that upon the divorce, he would have an interest in that asset, correct?
And I think that worked out very nicely for him, for everyone involved.
So what would be the process for someone that's seeking a divorce loan?
So first of all, talk to your attorney. It's definitely an option. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of a case. It doesn't have to be at the end of the case. It could be at the middle of the case, but it does have to be before the divorce is finalized. What we do is we make an assessment through an application that we send to the firm. The firm, it's not their first rodeo, where it might be the client's first rodeo. We ask the firm to put together the applications. Pretty simple, straightforward. What we're looking for is what the marital asset pool is, then sent to our underwriters to make a determination of what that is and what their likely entitlement would be. If the client is approved, we send documents for the client to review with independent legal counsel. Once that's reviewed, documents are sent back to us, and then we wire the funds over. The process can be done in as little as 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember his loan got approved rather quickly, and it didn't just include legal fees. It actually had some living expenses as well.
Absolutely. It can be done for legal fees, expert costs, so if you want to go ahead and retain those forensic accountants, but also, like you said, for reasonable living expenses. Sometimes it's not easy to get living expenses by way of court, or even during a mediation process. Sometimes things are, like we said, tied up, and you don't have the ability to go ahead and get that new apartment if you want to move out.
So when do you get paid? At the end of the divorce?
At settlement, when there is a liquidity event. So typically when that house sells or someone buys someone else out of their equity in the home. So that's when we get paid.
So typically these would be short-term loans, like 2 to 3 years.
Their cash advances against a potential settlement. So it can be anything. It could be anything from 6 months to 6 years. Hopefully not that long, but yes, I'd say on average 2 to 3 years.
And on average, what would be the interest rate?
So it's always the same. It's a monthly fee of 1.58% per month.
Okay.
And it's all rolled in. There's no payments that need to be made until settlement. We try to take the stress out of the process as much as we can.
And what's your prediction in terms of the need for this service in light of COVID-19?
I'm sure your phone is ringing too. Unfortunately, it's a stressful time. It's a stressful time putting two people together. And as I say, marriage is for better or for worse, and now may be that worst time. So certainly, I do think at the end of all this, we're going to see, like in January after the holidays, when people are stuck together, we're going to see more divorces being filed. That being said, courts are going to be clogged. I know we talked about this, that the courts are closed right now for non-emergent matters in most jurisdictions, and it's very difficult to get in general. I mean, certainly in the Maryland, D.C. area, and in New York, New Jersey area, courts are always very clogged, but now it's just going to go through the roof with the filings. And then in order to get in, to make an application for interim counsel fees, for interim relief for your living expenses, for clients' living expenses, it's going to be very difficult. Couple that with people, unfortunately, taking pay cuts, losing their jobs. They are not going to be able to go ahead and make those payments to their spouses, perhaps 60, 90, 120 days, who knows? So I do think that we're going to see some changes in divorces, and certainly I believe a need for funding, divorce funding.
And the funds can be used for people that choose to do a collaborative divorce or mediation instead of going to court.
Absolutely. And I encourage that. I think that's great if you can do that without question, and we're more than happy to fund those cases.
That's great. So Nicole, if people wanted to contact you, what's the best information?
So I'm going to hold up our handy dandy little brochure, which I'm happy to send if you can see it. But we are New Chapter Capital, and it's www.new chapter CHAPTER capital CAPITAL.com, or give us a call 212-404-7807.
Thanks so much for being here today, Nicole.
Thank you, Regina. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.